it'll fix some. And as you know, the statin studies show that there's a 2 to 3% absolute risk reduction in cardiovascular events, heart attacks, 2 to 3%. Why are we giving a drug that only works in 2 to 3% of people? And how do we know which of those 2 or 3% are? Well, then you have to treat the whole entire group. Well, that's great, but you still only have a 2 to 3% absolute risk reduction. Why? Because you're not lowering the ApoB enough. Well, it's not lowering the ApoB that's so important. It's how you lower the ApoB that's important. And that's what they don't get, and that's what they're missing. So they're giving statins to lower ApoB, but they're still seeing a significant increased risk for cardiovascular events and death and morbidity, mortality. Why? Because they're missing the point. It's not lowering the ApoB, which they do with a statin. It's how you lower it. Testosterone also lowers ApoB, but it reduces visceral fat. Statins increase visceral fat, which actually makes the disease and the dyslipidemia worse. So yes, there are a small amount of decrease in events, 2 to 3% absolute risk reduction. But the problem is, and as you well know, the outcome studies with testosterone show a 50 to 75% absolute risk reduction. And in one study, a 10-year study, there was 100% absolute risk reduction. Nobody in the study group that got testosterone had a heart attack over 10 years. Everyone in, was like so much increase in heart attacks and death in the control group that didn't take testosterone. But everyone ignores that because, you got to lower the ApoB, but it's not working. And the reason it doesn't work is because you can't simply lower ApoB with a drug. It's how you lower it. And if you lower it with a statin, it only works in 2 to 3%. If you lower it with testosterone, which reduces the visceral fat in both men and women, and when you reduce the visceral fat, that's the key, then you'll see this significant absolute risk reduction when men take testosterone that you only get a 2 to 3% when they use a statin. And they just simply don't get it.